So you've probably got GPT-4 baked into your daily workflow by now, right? You trust its speed and you kind of just accept its occasional errors as the cost of doing business. But I bet you're wondering if this new GPT 5.2 is just another small step up. Well, after spending weeks, weeks, stress testing these models side by side, I can tell you with absolute certainty, it is not an upgrade. It is a fundamental architectural divergence. And this quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head. If you're still using your old methods with this new class of model, you are literally driving a Formula One car in first gear. You're leaving its most powerful capabilities completely on the table. You're just wasting it. All right, so that's exactly what we're here to do. We're going to dismantle the hype and get straight to what actually works. In this deep dive, we're dissecting the quiet but massive shift in GPT 5.2's architecture. We'll cover the exact prompting protocols you need to unlock it, and maybe most importantly, the critical errors that separate it from what you're used to. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll talk about the obsolete workflow. Then we'll get into the anatomy of a reasoner, check out the benchmark evidence, lay out the new prompting protocol, cover the big user errors you need to avoid, and wrap it all up with the final verdict. Okay, let's get right into it. The obsolete workflow. Look, the number one mistake people are making is treating this new model like a simple chatbot. That mental model is dead. To get anything useful out of GPT 5.2, you have to stop thinking chatbot and start thinking reasoning engine. So what does that even mean, reasoning engine? What is actually going on under the hood here with GPT 5.2? Because this isn't just about it being bigger or faster. No, this is a ground-up redesign of how the model actually thinks before it gives you an answer. And the key, the absolute key to understanding this whole thing is a concept called reasoning tokens. Just think of it like a built-in chain of thought. When you throw a complex problem at GPT 5.2, it doesn't just spit out the first thing that comes to its digital mind. It actually internally works through the logic. It's like it's sketching out the problem on a notepad, trying different paths, and even correcting itself before it ever shows you the final response. In short, it actually thinks before it speaks. This really breaks it down perfectly. GPT-4, that was like talking to a brilliant friend who answers everything off the cuff. Super smart, but sometimes a bit fast and loose. GPT 5.2, that's the same brilliant person, but now they pause, they think it through, and then they give you a considered answer. And that one simple change makes a world of difference in the quality and, more importantly, the reliability of what you get back. Then there's the context window, and this is just a massive leap. With GPT-4, you were topping out around 32,000 tokens. Well, GPT 5.2 can handle up to 196,000. To put that in perspective, that's the difference between it remembering a chapter of a book versus having the entire library in its working memory. You can literally feed it a whole novel or a huge code base, and it won't forget what was on page 1. It just doesn't lose the plot. And finally, there's this new mega agent design. You remember how before you had to kind of nudge the model to use the web browser or switch to the data analysis tool or look at an image? Well, GPT 5.2 just collapses all of that into one single seamless model. It figures out what tool it needs and switches between them on its own, completely autonomously. You don't have to babysit it anymore. Okay, so all of that architectural stuff sounds great on paper, right? But what does it actually mean in practice? Let's get into the hard data. Because the performance gap here, it's probably a lot wider than you're expecting. And here's where it gets really interesting. We're not talking about abstract tests here. This is about performance on realistic, professional tasks. When put head-to-head with human experts, GPT 5.2 either won or tied 71% of the time. GPT-4? It was only at 39%. That's almost double the effectiveness on the actual work you'd be doing at your job. Think about that. But, and this is a big but, that incredible performance comes with a trade-off, because no tool is perfect, right? To get that new level of consistency, GPT 5.2 had to sacrifice some of the creative, almost chaotic flair of GPT-4. It's a little less fun. It's not going to add those extra flourishes unless you specifically ask for them. Now, for most professional work, that's a trade-off you'll take every single time, and here's why. GPT 5.2 is about 45% more factual than GPT-4. And when it doesn't know something, it's way, way more likely to just say, I don't know, instead of just making something up and sounding confident about it. For anyone who's been burned by a hallucination before, you know that is a huge leap in reliability. So, the big question is, how do you actually tap into all this power? Pay close attention here, because this next part is going to save you hours of frustration. The old rules for prompting are out. The rules have changed.
But the good news? They're actually a lot simpler.
Okay, here's the protocol. Number 1, be super specific about the format and length you want. This model is concise by default. Number 2, use system instructions. Give it a role, like you are a senior copy editor. 3, if you have a huge task, chunk it down. Ask for an outline first, then have it tackle each section. 4, always encourage citations to keep it honest. And finally, number 5, iterate. Your first answer is just a draft. Use your feedback to guide it to the perfect result.
All right, now let's talk about the mistakes. And I'm telling you, even if you were a total power user on GPT-4, some of these common pitfalls are definitely going to trip you up if you're not careful.
Okay, here they are. Biggest mistake, treating it like a search engine. Don't. Second, over-prompting with crazy, rigid rules. It doesn't need micromanagement anymore. Next, expecting a perfect first answer. Its real strength is in refining that first draft. Also, a big one, ignoring the multimodal features, like file uploads in Vision. Remember the trade-off we talked about? It's not the best tool for purely creative writing. And finally, please, when it gets something wrong, correct it. Your feedback is the fastest way to get it back on track.
Okay, so let's pull all of this together. It's time for the final verdict. What's the bottom line here? And how do you know which tool to reach for? Honestly, it's pretty simple. If you're brainstorming, doing some creative writing, or you just need that spark of a colorful personality, stick with GPT-4. It's still a fantastic tool for that. But if you're doing professional work, we're talking coding, research, deep factual analysis, anything where accuracy and reliability are everything, then GPT 5.2 is without a doubt the superior tool. So here's the main takeaway. GPT 5.2 is not just GPT-4 plus 1. It's a different kind of tool. And to really get your money's worth, you have to adjust your approach, you have to understand the trade-offs, and you have to be smart about picking the right tool for the job. And that really leaves just one final question for you to think about. Now that you know what this thing really is and how it actually works, you have to ask yourself, is your workflow ready for a reasoning engine?